these people look like they're people of integrity and courage, of course. And it's the sort of thing that goes down well with voters compared with, say, people who worked in lobbying or journalism.
It's been a huge weekend for candidate selection, particularly by the two major parties. Both the Labour Party and the Conservatives are parachuting candidates into safe seats, bypassing the local party members. Veteran political reporter Michael Crick has a Twitter account, Tomorrow's MPs, where he promises to lift the secrecy on the practice. And I have to say, I am addicted to it. And he's here to talk to us now. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm addicted to it too. And the trouble with interviewing me is I throw up little bits of trivia for you. You're starting in Dover.
Yes.
Well, here's one.
Go on.
Did you know that both the candidates for the main parties in Dover, Stephen James, who's standing for the Conservatives, and Mike Tapp, who is standing for Labour, selected a couple of years ago, are both former Army intelligence officers? And that may sound, a real nerdish fact, but actually it also reflects a trend in this election that both parties have been appointing lots of former military people as their candidates. Labour have done it in a big way just to show they're patriotic and, it's not the Corbyn Labour Party anymore. But the Conservatives as well. I mean, over the weekend, on Friday, at least 3 former military officers were chosen. I suppose it's because in this period of disillusionment with politics, if you choose a former army officer or RAF officer or naval officer, it makes you look patriotic, and these people look like they're people of integrity and courage, of course. And it's the sort of thing that goes down well with voters compared with, say, people who worked in lobbying or journalism.
So, speaking of people who've worked in lobbying, you set that up nicely for me. Well, thank you, Michael. So, let's start with the Conservatives. As I said, I'm addicted to your Twitter account, and I've been reading so much this weekend about former SPADs, current SPADs, that's special advisors to those who are less nerdy than me,
Yes.
being parachuted into safe seats by the Conservatives. Now, we know the Conservatives had a lot of seats to fill. I think last weekend there was a statistic that they'd need to appoint someone to a seat every 100 minutes in order to fill all of their empty seats. How are they getting on? And also, who are some of the people that they've been parachuting in?
Well, I should have had notice of this question, and I would have got my list up. Let me see if I can get my list up while we're talking. But they're not actually. Labour have appointed all of their candidates, by the way, although there may be some changes if people retire or are purged or die or whatever in the next few days. But the Conservatives, I did a calculation late last night. I think they've still got, believe it or not, 150 seats to fill. Now, it's possible that some of those seats have been filled and they just haven't announced the candidate. And of those seats, I think 17 still are candidates, are seats which they, would have won in 2019, but on the new boundaries of 2024. So there's still some very attractive safe seats up for grabs. There'll be a few selections this afternoon and this evening, more tomorrow and on Tuesday and throughout the week.
And they've got until Friday, is that right?
They've got to fill. Well, sorry?
They've got until Friday, is that right?
They've got, 4:30, I think it is, or is it 4:00 on Friday? You've got to get your nominations in. And last time round, in Hartlepool, there was a real, it's either a mix-up or a conspiracy, but the candidates' nomination papers got locked in the back of somebody's car who'd gone on holiday, and they had to scrabble round and find a new candidate at the very last minute, and they only got the nomination papers in. This is the Conservatives, with minutes to spare. So that sometimes does happen. But in terms of the people who've been chosen, as you say, a lot of them are former, people who've been SPADs. I mean, for instance, Nikki DaCosta, she's probably appeared on Times Radio. She had the job of Director of Legislative Affairs, affairs being affairs of business, not of romance, in Downing Street under both Theresa May and then under Boris Johnson, which of course was, a really intense Brexit period. How are we going to deal with Brexit? And of course, she was right at the heart of that. But then she fell out with Johnson's Downing Street over the whole Partygate affair. So that's a very interesting selection there. And again, a woman called Ali Griffiths got chosen for the Conservatives in Bognor Regis yesterday. And she is very much involved in business, helping firms to outperform the market. But she was also director of operations for Theresa May's leadership campaign. And more important, she was a chief operations officer of the Conservative In campaign. And that is an illustration of the way in which quite a lot of the Conservative candidates who have been chosen for this election are former Remainers. They're not all Brexiteers, as you might have thought. So it is an interesting trend that it's now possible to have been a Remainer and get chosen in the Conservative Party. Another one chosen on Friday, but interesting man, Lincoln Jopp. Again, like I said, a former army officer. He actually won the MC in Sierra Leone and served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and he was a commanding officer of the first Scots Guards. So he'll be one to look out for.
Michael, can I just say, Labour have been doing this too, though, haven't they? We actually came up with a little slogan here in the office. We came up with Sunak's Spads and Keir's Kids, because as we've been talking about in this story about Labour offering MPs peerages to step down, and one insider saying that a little boy wanted my seat within the Labour Party. The Labour have been offering safe seats to people like Josh Simons, who's been head of Labour Together, Luke Akehurst, Torsten Bell. So are both sides doing this equally, or is one doing it a little bit more than the other?
Well, I think in Labour's case, it's very serious. I mean, the Sunday Times story this morning I thought was fabulous, and it reflects what I've been saying all week. Frankly, Labour have been bribing people. It's corrupt. It's possibly criminal. I mean, to say to somebody, and the Sunday Times quotes somebody, an MP, not by name, as saying that they were offered a peerage to give up their seat and go to the House of Lords instead. That is offering an inducement. I mean, what is the former director of the public prosecutions being involved in an operation like that? It is so tawdry. It's as bad as anything that happened in the Boris Johnson years. Lots of Labour people, but on the right and left, feel really ashamed of their party for doing this right now. And you're easing people out of their seats. They wanted to stay in Parliament. They're offered a place in the House of Lords and they grab it. And that operation, I mean, on Monday and Tuesday, we saw 8 Labour MPs announce they were standing down, an extraordinary number, given that not many Labour MPs have stood down at this election. And then on Thursday and Friday, the National Executive Committee it was an appalling operation. 5 members of the National Executive Committee were appointed by other members of the National Executive to fill some of these seats, along with a whole load of people who played key roles in the Starmer machine. I mean, what is Starmer doing?
Well,
allowing
Michael, how is
it condone it? And what's Sue Gray doing, condoning it? The former head of ethics in the Cabinet Office. This is really, really serious stuff, and it's fabulous that the Sunday Times have picked it up today, because a lot of journalists haven't really got to grips with what this really is.
Michael, how is this landing? I mean, how are constituents feeling about, the imposition of, young, possibly former advisors?
Well, they're not all young, actually.
Okay. Well,
I mean, there's Luke Akehurst in North Durham. He's got to be in his 50s by now, and he's been
we're not calling 50s old anymore, Michael. Come on.
No, that's true. I'm 66. I've got to be careful. But I think you and I had this problem before. But I don't know how it's going down with the constituency, with the voters. They probably haven't noticed or may not care that much. But it's not going down very well with the grassroots, who feel of the Labour Party. And particularly, there is, the way in which the left has been purged. So there's hardly anybody left now. It wasn't just Diane Abbott who was in danger last week and actually survived. There was a woman, a pretty distinguished economist, actually, called Faiza Shaheen, who was due to fight Ian Duncan Smith's seat. She was purged. The Labour MP, Lloyd Russell Moyle in Brighton, Kent Town, he was dropped because of some anonymous allegation about something 8 years ago. I mean, they really have been utterly, utterly ruthless. And of course, when the Starmer government, as it inevitably will, runs into trouble, all governments run into trouble 2 or 3 years from now, there will be a backlash within the Labour Party about this, a